franktalks.com.
Welcome to Passion, a show all about love, sex, and relationships. My name is Paris Mansouri. I'm sitting in for Dr. Lori all week while she's away on vacation. Tonight on the program, we focus on adult virgins. We're going to have a dating coach talk to us about adult virgins. He's helped, and we're going to talk to a couple of guys who are former adult virgins. And then during the second half of the show, we're going to take a deeper look at the issue, take into consideration, personal choice, culture, sexual values, and how essentially choosing to remain a virgin or wanting to marry a virgin despite not being one can affect our lives. So the person who's going to help me navigate the waters tonight is dating coach and passion regular Frank Kermit. He's the author of over 20 relationship books, as well as over 25 audiobooks. Welcome to the show, Frank.
I like to keep busy.
Apparently. You've also written a book called Adult Male Virgins Handbook.
Yes. The Adult Male Virgin Handbook was a book I wrote for a very significant branch of my coaching business, Adult Male Virgins. And I coach them about how to change certain attitudes so that they can appear more attractive to women and get their first girlfriends.
Okay. Where can we find this book? On your website, I imagine?
On my website, franktalks.com.
Okay. So throughout the show, as I mentioned, during the first half, we're going to do a couple of interviews. We're going to meet a few gentlemen who were adult male virgins. Frank is going to stay throughout the entire show. He's also here to answer your questions if you have any. So if you've, been curious, you've heard him before on the show. And if you have some questions for him, tonight would be the night, 1-800-491-2523. Or you can text in at 514-800 or 71010. So do you have, as part of your coaching business, is it a big part of your business? Adult virgins in general?
I'd say about 20 to 25% of the people that I have coached have struggled with virginity issues.
And are they mostly women, mostly men?
It's mostly men.
Okay.
I have coached some women who were adult female virgins, and they face a different set of challenges than the men do. Usually I coach the female virgins through the matchmaking industry.
Okay.
And the male virgins through just regular dating coaching.
Do they come first to you with dating issues and then it comes out that they are virgins and, through your work with them, you find out that that's part of the issue, or are they upfront about it?
The men are generally upfront about it. They start off by saying, look, I've never had a girlfriend, I've never had sex, and I don't want to pay for it. I want a real girlfriend. I want someone that, is special to me, and I want to be special to her. And that's where they usually start. Women who will come to me, they don't see their virginity as necessarily part of what's holding them back. They feel it's a prize, that it needs to be cherished. What they don't realize is that that very thing that they've been holding on to because it's such a prize and it's going to be so wanted and so on is actually a liability. So something that may have been something to treasure earlier in life actually makes it more difficult to find anybody willing to date you if you are still a virgin.
So we're going to get deeper into that during the second part of the show because I think it's super interesting. A lot of people put a tremendous amount of value, and it's not at all religious. I was one of those people. I chose to remain a virgin for a long, long time. It was something I consciously knew that it was going to happen. I think I tend to get attached. I recognize that in myself, and I wanted to wait. So I waited until my late 20s. So when this show topic came up, I didn't even think of myself as quote unquote an adult virgin because it was a choice that I had made for myself. And in discussing and talking to people at the station about doing the show, a lot of people are like, oh, was it for religious reasons? And I really hate that connotation because I think a lot of people make the choice willingly, and you don't have to be religious. You don't have to be in a quote unquote cult. There's nothing that's enforced on you. Sometimes it is a personal choice. And like you said, the personal choice sometimes becomes a liability. In my case, thankfully it didn't, but it does have ramifications. We're going to get to that in the second part of the show. Right now, I want to speak to one of your clients who I'm very grateful agreed to come on air because I know that it's not an easy topic to talk about. Robert is in studio with us tonight. Thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you for having me.
And Robert, how did you meet Frank originally? You were one of his clients.
It actually started with a speed dating event.
Okay.
Frank was at a speed dating event, and then I'd met him. Just, and then time went by, and then I wanted a change in my life. So I saw he used to have a flyer. I don't know if he still has that flyer, but saw that flyer, contacted him. I didn't know about the whole adult male virgin coaching and whatnot. He contacts me, sends me a questionnaire that I had to fill out, and through that, he starts asking me questions. Then he asks me the questions, are you still a virgin and whatnot? And then I said yes, and then that's where the AMV coaching came about.
So was it a decision for you? Was it a decision that you took on, or was it a decision that parents, family, culture? I mean, what was the reason why you remained a virgin? And until what age did you remain a virgin? We should say that. We should ask that first.
Well, I remained a virgin until the age of 40.
Okay.
So,
and just one thing before we move on, Frank, I should have established by virginity, and we're saying adult virgins, it's intercourse. Is that what we're limiting it to?
Exactly. It's
Okay.
intercourse. This is what a lot of psychology associations will define as sex. We're dealing with penile,
The actual
vaginal
act.
intercourse. Yeah.
Okay. So for you, it was what age, Robert?
40.
40. Okay.
and it was one of those things where I didn't want the title of my life, the story title, to be The 40-Year-Old Virgin,
Which was the movie.
which was the movie.
And as 40 approached, was that something that you were aware of and fearful of? Like you didn't want to be the 40-year-old virgin?
Exactly. But it was more the fact that, I was lacking in self-confidence, and it was more that than religious beliefs and whatnot. And, I found that, through my personal development, I was growing as a person, but I still needed help in getting to that goal, finding someone, connecting with somebody. It transcends just the act. It's really meeting somebody. It's getting, connecting with somebody. And then that's where Frank comes in and helped me out with that. And I'm grateful for that.
Did you tell your friends that you were working on it? Did your friends know that you were a virgin at all, first of all?
Only my best friend knew.
Okay.
But otherwise, no. I wanted to avoid all the questions, why this, and all, inevitably their perception will change. So if I did tell them, or at least that's what I thought. So I preferred to remain, keep it quiet. I did mention to a few people that I was working with a coach, a relationships coach, but not necessarily.
You didn't go into details.
No.
Is it something that hangs over you? Were you fearful of people finding out about that? Or was it just something that's private to you and you didn't think anyone needs to know about it?
It was mostly a private thing. Nobody really needed to know, and I just, it was my thing.
And then when it happened, what changed?
Pretty much, it's a confidence thing. It's a confidence builder. It's also a personal development thing, and that's one thing that we forget. Life is a series of experiences. It's a series of, at least I want to believe that, where you grow as a person. And for me, it was, okay, this has happened, and now I don't have to worry about all that anymore. I can focus on meeting the emotional needs of women, going out there and showing people who I truly am, as opposed to remaining in my head and saying, oh man, what am I going to do next?
So the shift was, just the tone in which you explained was a massive shift just in the way that you were expressing yourself. We're going to get to that, and then essentially what happened afterwards and your approach to relationships once you past that quote unquote threshold. You're listening to Passion. We're on every single night, every single weeknight, I should say, from 10 to 11 p.m., talking love, sex, and relationships. Tonight, we're talking about adult virgins with dating coach Frank Kermit and two former adult male virgins. And you guys, if any of you guys want to chime into the conversation, you are more than welcome to. You can call in 1-800-491-2523, or you can text 514-800 or 71010. You're listening to Passion.
Frank Talks is sponsored by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and a virgin, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing, the very personal pain that haunts you every moment of your life. Alienated from your male friends, for you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. The Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations, only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
Welcome back to Passion. Tonight we are talking about adult virgins. We have dating coach Frank Kermit in to be the expert on the topic, because I'm not an expert on the topic, and we need somebody to help me navigate the waters. Thank you for joining us, Frank.
Always a pleasure.
And where can people find you online?
franktalks.com.
Perfect. And Frank's written a book called Adult Male Virgins Handbook, and he hasn't written a book, by the way. He's written 20 relationship books, 25 audiobooks on top.
22 books on relationships and dating.
Do you have a number that you're going for?
100.
Really?
I'm going for 100 over the course of my life.
Okay. Well, tonight we're talking about the Adult Male Virgins Handbook. He has helped women as well. So if you're a lady out there and you do have questions, you're more than welcome to chime in or ask him questions as well. You can text us 514-800 or 71010. You can call us at 1-800-491-2523. In studio, we also have Robert, who is, are you a current client or a former client?
Former,
because you are no longer looking to date and you are no longer a virgin.
I'm definitely looking to date.
Okay. You're
The
still dating.
Continues.
You're still on the dating scene.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we've got some guests, some texts coming in. There's somebody who texted in from Montreal for you, Robert. It says, I'd be curious to know the reason behind your guest's virginity until the age of 40 and your ethnic background.
Ethnic background, Mediterranean.
Okay.
But it wasn't a thing that I wanted to hold on to. It was
not religious.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I think for me it was more being cultural upbringing thing, where I was supposed to leave home only when I got married. And I think what it did do to me is that it, I'm not going to say programmed, but it said, okay, I could only bring home a person that I can
settle down with.
Okay. So it created a checklist, like a personal attributes checklist, which was way out of whack.
And nobody met those criteria?
Nobody. Like there would be the smallest things. Maybe, for example, a woman would be half an hour late. And I would oh no, I'm not dating a girl who's never on time. So the littlest of things, and I would just, oh no, I'll move on to another girl. So it's not as if I did not have dates. It's just that they didn't last more than maybe 3-4 dates. And then I would just move on.
Okay.
And I kept moving on.
And for you, it was important to have the connection prior to having the sexual relation.
Absolutely.
Okay. Hope that answers your question. We have another text that came in from Toronto. Frank, this one's for you. It says, help. I am 48 years young. I am still a virgin. It has nothing to do with religion. I would love to have a girlfriend. I'm visually impaired. My eyes shake a bit and it's difficult to maintain eye contact. I've tried speed dating and online dating. Someday I hope. And it trails off.
Okay, here's what we would do if I took you through a coaching program. First thing I would want to do is I'd want to find out what your strengths are. And yes, I get that you can't maintain eye contact, but maintaining eye contact does not break or make any sort of relationship. It's just one element. I would focus on your communication. We would look at your storytelling skills, your ability to engage someone in a conversation, your ability to screen someone and spot red flags. And here's the major thing. Are you doing something that is turning off the people that you would want to date that you're not aware of? And that's where we would be focusing on coaching. In his case, he might be triggering the mothering instinct in the women that he's trying to date. Women can only, and again, this is my theory, this is what I use in my coaching, women's emotional needs. She's either your mother or she's your lover. She can't be both. So are you saying something or behaving in a way that makes her feel that she would have to mother you? If you're triggering those mothering instincts in her, she's not going to be interested in dating you romantically. And that's what we would focus on. I would want to do an analysis of what you're doing on the dates that you are getting that's turning these women off.
Thank you, Frank. And I hope that answers your question. And we've got somebody on the line, Frank, and I believe it's somebody you know. Jim, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Jim. So Jim is also a client of Frank's, former or current?
I'd say I'm current. I still use his material. It's good review, and there's so much to master and learn.
Okay, so how did you end up being an adult male virgin?
Well, right now I'm 42 years old. I lost my virginity at 40 with Frank's help. I was raised in a very strict religious household. When I was 18, I dated a stripper. My mom went to the strip joint and argued with her, and I never went out with her again. Women always gave me the nice guy dating advice. I had no sisters and no female friends at the time. And I thought to be a great husband, you had to be a virgin until you're married because of religion. And I was worried about STDs and pregnancies.
Okay.
And lastly, being a technical person, I always thought in mathematical equations, physics, and logic, and it seemed easier to relate with computers more than people.
Okay. And so what was the breaking point for you? What made you finally say, okay, I'm done waiting?
What finally did it was a lady invited me to her birthday party. She said she liked me and then proceeded to make out with 4 other guys during the night and didn't even kiss me. I left the party early, went home, cried, loaded up a gun, pointed at my head. I was waiting for God or the universe to give me an answer and got no response. I thought about how many people would be hurt by me killing myself, and I put the gun down. And I got tired of other men always getting women.
I have shivers listening to your story. We've been talking earlier. I don't know if you were listening. We were talking about Robert, who's in studio, and myself. We had both made the decision, and to hear your story and your take, I'm sure there's many people out there right now who are identifying with what you're saying. I'm glad that you didn't. And how is it now? And so you said you're no longer a virgin. What's happened since that moment and now?
Paris, could you repeat that question again?
Yeah, what's been the biggest change for you? And, from the moment that you were waiting, you said you were waiting for a sign, and obviously something happened and there was something inside you that said, I should not pull this trigger. From then until now, what has happened? I assume you've lost your virginity?
Yes, I lost my virginity. It felt like a big weight's been lifted off my shoulder. I was always, pressured, stressed out. I feel a lot more relaxed and not pressured just to date anyone.
Do you tell people I was a virgin until this age, or is that something you keep for yourself?
No, that was something I kept to myself, but my close family members and close friends knew about that. Some of them used to joke about that, and they wouldn't even help me out on dates. So,
and now?
They're still friends, but it wasn't very funny at the time.
I can imagine. And now, are they setting you up on dates? Do you feel more included in the conversations?
The friends will actually set me up on dates. They stopped. Women especially stopped giving me the nice guy dating advice. That was something I did not enjoy. And, because I guess they don't want to offend you, and at the time they think they'll only give you as much truth as you can handle, so I guess they thought that was all I could handle at the time.
Do you think now that you look back on all your experiences, do you feel that remaining a virgin for you was maybe a bigger deal than it really was in the end? Because sometimes we make decisions in life and we hold on to it for whatever reasons. We decide that that's the value that we want to stick by. So is it, now that you look back, is it something that you think, oh, maybe I could have lost it earlier and I would have been okay?
I definitely could have lost it earlier, and Frank has pointed that out to me. You always have that friend that you could have gone out with, but you don't consider dating them, and I think the women were doing the same thing to me. And so I passed up a bunch of opportunities when I was younger and not realize it until now, and when I studied the emotional needs of women. So it goes both ways. I was being passed up by women, and then I passed up other women and not realize it because I said, oh, this is a nice woman here, and she's just a friend, and that's just the way I saw them.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Jim. And as you're speaking, I see Robert in studio who's shaking his head. I think he identifies a lot with what you're saying. Your story is extremely important. I hope that somebody who's listening out there who may be going through the same emotions and feelings, you were that moment for them and that you were their sign. And hopefully they will seek help just like you did. Thank you again for sharing your story.
Okay, thank you, Paris, and thank you, Frank, and thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Robert, you were nodding your head yes, and when he was saying that he was passing up people
Oh, absolutely.
You saw yourself doing that?
Yeah, because every little excuse for me, was just, let's move on. And like, nobody was good enough. It sounds weird, but in fact, I was the person that had the problem. That I definitely had to go through a self-assessment. That lack of self-confidence and whatnot, deprived me of so many opportunities. And it's, I don't know if I'm answering that question before, but I think only now was I really ready to tackle on, that whole meeting somebody, connecting with somebody, as opposed to before. There was something that I didn't work out, in my life, kind of thing. So,
it seems to be a confidence trigger for you.
Absolutely.
And I was mentioning, even in the way that you're speaking and describing the shift, your tone has changed.
Midnight and midday.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, we are talking to adult virgins. We've been speaking to adult virgins, and we've been speaking to a coach, Frank Kermit, who's I would call you a definite expert. I don't know anybody else who, after 20 books, 25 audiobooks, he's definitely the guy who can answer your questions on dating or on maybe remaining a virgin is a good thing for you. We're going to get into that in the second half hour because sometimes we know ourselves well enough to know we may get attached and we don't want to be random with our sexuality. So more with Frank Kermit, more with Robert. If you want to join in the conversation, you can do so 1-800-491-2523, or you can text in at 514-800 or 71010. You're listening to Passion.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
Welcome back to the show. We are talking about love, sex, and relationships every night from 10 to 11 on weeknights. My name is Paris. I've been sitting in all week for Dr. Lori. I'm here again tomorrow night while she's away on vacation. Tonight on the program, we've been talking about adult virgins. We have dating coach Frank Kermit in studio with us, who's been helping me navigate the waters.
Always a pleasure.
And we've been talking to former adult virgins as well to get their take on it, whether it's been religious or cultural or just personal decision. You're also welcome to join in the conversation, 514-800-71010 to text, 1-800-491-2523 to call in. Frank, we've got a texter. It says, I'm a 25-year-old student virgin. I've been trying to get a classmate to like me, but she pays me no mind. And also, this person didn't specify if they're male or female, and there's no name. So does it make a difference whether it's a guy or a girl?
It can make a difference because men and women do have similar emotional needs, but they also have different emotional needs. So I would need to have an idea of what the situation is. But usually, I don't advise people to date their classmates, for the same reason that I don't advise people to date someone they work with.
Okay.
It's not some place where you want to really take too many chances. You don't know how the person's going to react. You really don't know how you're coming across. You might come across in a way that creeps the other person out, and then you have to work with them or study with them.
Or be paired up with them.
Or
for
be
a group.
paired.
Yeah.
Exactly. So my advice is try to find out what that person is interested in outside of school. If they happen to like a particular band, if they frequent a museum, if there's something that you know that they're going to go to, a more public arena of some kind, see if you can go to that event and say, well, I was actually planning to go to that same event. Why don't we just head out there together? And through that conversation, you're not trying to get this person's attention. You're just trying to find out a little bit about them through normal conversation. And once you're there, that's where you can screen the person and have different conversations to see whether or not you're compatible.
We have another texter, this one from Montreal, saying, I have a few female friends that I think are virgins. They are in their late 40s, never left home, never got married, never dated. They spend most of their time working and looking after their parents. I often wonder if their parents/culture has made them that way, or if they are just asexual people who are not interested in sex.
Look, it is always possible that they may be asexual. That's a sexual orientation. There's an organization, asexuality.org, that can help people identify whether or not they are asexual, and that's a separate topic from virginity. In some cases, and I have to say my heart goes out to those women because I have worked with women in those capacities where they may be the only sibling who has not married and had children, and they're staying at home, and they become the parents' caregivers.
Right.
And their primary focus in life is not about finding a partner and starting a family. It's taking care of their aging and ill parents. And I do see this a lot, where they put their own lives on hold out of some sense of obligation. And when I say, hey, bring in your siblings here to try to help you out. Yeah, but they have kids and they've got a family. I said, okay, they have kids and they have a family. They're still your siblings. They still have an obligation to your parents. But if you don't make a love life your priority soon, you won't have one. And it gets more difficult the longer you put it off.
Okay. Robert, we have a text for you. It says, Robert sounds like a very intelligent and reflective person, and I could relate to that. I'd like to know how old he is and the age range he is looking for to date.
I'm 43.
Okay.
And I'm going to say 35, 45 age range.
Okay. And if whoever is texting, if you're asking because you're interested, you can connect with Frank because Robert used to work with Frank. Frank, where can this person find you?
Go to my website, Frank Talks with an S, franktalks.com. Send me an email, frank@franktalks.com, and give me your information. Tell me what it is you would like, whether it's just a phone call, a first date over coffee, and I'll pass it along to Robert with your contact information.
And then we'll take it from there. Did you expect that to happen today,
Not at all.
Robert?
I'm flattered.
This is a really good point. When people put themselves out there, opportunities for dating and love and romance always comes to them. And this is one of the biggest challenges with an adult virgin. They're not used to putting themselves out there.
And tonight, some of them are. We've got a couple on the line right now. If anyone else wants to join in the conversation, you can text in 514-800 or 71010. I actually found a few stats. A survey of children and youth found, it's actually a 2005 survey, and it says that by age 14 or 15, about 13% of Canadian adolescents have had sexual intercourse. And young adolescents in the eastern provinces of Quebec were more likely to report being sexually active than those in Ontario. And 43% of nationally surveyed teens aged 15 to 19 reported that they'd had sexual intercourse at least once. And those numbers are higher in Quebec. And I found that interesting because it may go back to culture.
Very much so.
And the final stat that I had here, it says the research shows that the number of adolescents who had sexual intercourse before the age of 15 had dropped from 12% to 8% between 96 and 2005. Which I thought was also very interesting. I was surprised and then I wasn't. These surveys, I mean, this was a national survey done by like a Canadian, health organization. People tend to lie.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of whether they're going to be found out or not. But these numbers are still interesting.
Well, I'll tell you why I think the numbers are starting to go down in terms of people being sexually active.
Okay.
Nowadays, you have a lot more access to pornographic material. And that is going to be one of the reasons, because they can see and they experience nudity and sexuality without actually having to go out and date. One of the challenges, and this is not across the board, but this is a significant enough number that I can say this. A lot of the virgins that I work with, both men and women, spend a lot more time watching porn than people who are going out and dating.
That's interesting.
Because it's just easier. Because when you go out to date, you have to actually deal with the fact that you're putting yourself out there. Someone might not approach you. Someone might reject you. You might have a date and it really wasn't a very good experience. It's a lot easier to stay home and watch porn. That's only just one of the reasons. I don't want to say that that's the only cause.
No, we can't put it across the board.
No, we can't. But we can't say that that is a significant number out there. Other reasons that people are just communicating more through technology. Why get together and socialize over a cup of coffee when you can stay home and text on your phones? How many times are we dealing with younger people who will constantly be texting one another? Before it was the stereotypical image of the teenager that was always on the phone. And
landline.
Yeah, and block up the one landline of the house.
Right.
Now we have a lot more means of communication. available so that you can be constantly talking to people, sometimes talking to 2 or 3 people at the same time through social media.
We're talking tonight about adult virgins with dating coach Frank Kermit, and we have a former adult virgin, Robert, who's in studio with us. On the line, we've got Mary. Mary?
Thank you. It's a very interesting show.
Thank you. How old are you?
Oh, now I'm in my 50s. I just wanted to say that maybe 20 years ago, I was friends with a guy, just friends, but I just couldn't take it further because I knew he was a virgin. And he was about 35, a really nice guy, but I didn't want to be the first one for him. I didn't want the responsibility, like what if he gets too attached maybe. And I was back in touch with him recently, and he's not a virgin anymore. There's more interest. Well, there's more interest on my part, I guess, less reluctance, maybe less fear, just knowing he's been around a bit and no longer a virgin.
Okay. So the fears are gone. Do you have any other concerns now? Was him being a virgin the only concern that you had? Because there could be other factors.
Well, it was sort of a block to kind of getting to know him better, because I was just like, yeah, well, that was a big barrier,
Okay. Thank you so much for your call, Mary.
It's a great show. It's very interesting.
Thank you so much. Frank, does that happen often, whether it's a man or a woman?
Very much so. And this is one of the reasons that most adult-aged virgins keep it a secret. Because as soon as people find out that you're a virgin, the chances of rejection are much higher. People just don't want to deal with being the first or risking being attached. And I know some people who won't marry a virgin. Not because they're worried about not being good in bed. They're more concerned about, well, what happens if I marry a virgin and then they realize, wow, I missed out. They don't want the person to either leave them or cheat on them just to make up for lost time.
I want to definitely get on that, but also speak about, because when you're younger, for girls, it's like, oh, I waited for him and I gave it to him. And I guess after a certain age, it becomes a liability. More on that coming up. We're talking about adult virgins with dating coach Frank Kermit and former adult virgin Robert. You're listening to Passion.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
Welcome back to the show. It's at the tail end of it. We've been talking about adult virgins with dating coach Frank Kermit. We've got Robert in studio with us, who's been so kind to share his stories, and you guys with your text and phone calls. Before we went to break, Frank, we were talking about how remaining a virgin sometimes becomes a liability. With all your good intent about saving yourself for the right person, and, I remember for me, my friends from the time we were 14, 15, they'd all began, guys and girls had started to be sexually active. Some of them were in relationships. Some of them it was like at a party. They got drunk. And I remember seeing the ones who got drunk and it wasn't meaningful and how emotional they were about it and the crying. And for anyone who's listening who remembers back in high school, or even teens listening right now, it's very traumatic to watch your friends go through that. Or then seeing people who were in, 6-month relationships and they finally decided to have sex, and then the guy breaks up with them, and literally the trauma and everything that they were going through, and quote unquote saving yourself was a big deal, and then you were his first, or I gave it up to him. But I think after a certain age, giving it up to someone becomes even more, there's more riding on it. What age does that start happening at?
Where it becomes really painful for a man who's a virgin is about the age of 25.
Okay, and for women?
For women, it's usually is between about 26 to 29. That's
Okay.
where they start saying, okay, I've held off until now. I didn't just give it to anybody, but I'm now looking for something serious. I've probably finished schooling. I'm in a stage of my life where I've started to work, building up my career, but I'm thinking also about wanting to have a family. And then it becomes very important that, okay, I got to find somebody. And this idea that, well, I'm going to hold on to it, I'm going to hold on to it, I'm going to hold on to it. If you attach a certain meaning to your virginity, that's okay. I don't want to paint this as
I was
an
just going to say,
anti-virginity show, okay?
Yes.
This is not an anti-virginity show. If you have attached certain feelings or meaning to holding on to your virginity, hold on to it. I have clients who, because of, and in the case of my current one, he has a religious attachment to it.
Okay.
He wants to be a virgin until marriage. He just still wants to learn how to attract, how to connect, and how to build a relationship that will lead to that. I'm not anti-virginity. What I do think, though, is that if somebody says, wait a minute, being a virgin is now causing me pain, that's when it's a problem.
Okay.
And the meaning that you attach to it, you have to be able to justify it other than that's what I've always been taught. Because this is where we talk about compatible sexual values. It's not just about the meaning you're attaching to it now, but the meaning that you're going to attach to it going forward. When two people who get together that have incompatible sexual values, it's not the virginity that's the issue. It's the incompatible values. That's the underlying issue. That's the underlying conflict that they need to resolve.
It's honestly, you have to go back to yourself. Like Frank said, it's not a one size fits all. You have to go into, like Robert was saying, personal development and understand what it means to you. We've got Yvonne on the line. Yvonne, are you there?
I'm here. Hi.
Hi, Yvonne. You wanted to share your story. Do you know Frank, or are you an adult virgin? What's your situation?
I am a former virgin, and I went to one of Frank's seminars when I was a virgin, and this was years ago, but I think it's really helped me.
And how did it help you?
Well, when you are a male adult virgin, even though I wasn't that old, I was 21, but you feel this unbearable weight on your shoulders, and you idealize the first time that you want to have sex, and you think it has to be perfect. You think it has to be out of love with a perfect woman, and so on and so forth. And what Frank managed to explain to us is that it doesn't have to be perfect. That really connected with me, and I think that lifted this perfection weight off my shoulders. And I think it accelerated my progress towards losing my virginity.
Thank you so much, Ivan, for that call. I'm sure you've encountered a lot of situations like that. I mean, from the sound of it, it's a shift that happens.
It's a shift in thinking, and I want to summarize it quickly. Special doesn't have to mean forever. Let's not get the two confused. You can lose your virginity in a special encounter. Just don't attach the meaning of special as must mean forever.
Okay. Nick, you're on the line with Frank. I see here that you have a question for him.
Yeah, I actually talked to Frank. I had a session years ago, and he told me stuff that I didn't even get until recently, like simple things about respecting yourself and all that. And he helped me lose my virginity at 27. I had a quasi experience, like I kind of lost my virginity at 23, but I really lost it at 27. It was thanks to Frank, actually.
What's quasi?
Like, one of my friends hooked me up with a girl, and like it was so awkward, like I could barely get it up, so it was like a weird experience. Like it was it was barely sex.
Okay, so it was a different experience from what you consider "quote unquote" the real experience.
Yeah. Okay. It was attempted sex, but it didn't really happen.
Okay.
But really, my question was, like, what is the real fear that women have of unexperienced men? Is it just the fact that like they won't be able to give them an orgasm, or because they're not attractive? Or
generally speaking, women will sometimes have a fantasy that they want the man to be assertive, that he's going to lead the interaction, and if he is inexperienced, she feels she's going to have to mother him and take him through it, and that's where a lot of women get very turned off.
Thank you so much for your call, Nick. So we are at literally at the end of the show. I want to know, so base it on his question, the fears that women have and then the fears that men have.
Okay, fears.
Can we talk about that a little bit?
Okay, both of them fear the other person becoming too attached. So both genders worry about the other person being attached. Generally speaking, women, it's not so much a fear, it's more of a resentment that they have this fantasy of the fairy tale, the prince coming in and leading the entire interaction and giving them the most romantic, overseeing the entire romantic experience of it. And when a guy's not experienced, he's not going to be taking the lead. And when you're dealing with a generally nice guy who's not used to being assertive, that becomes a turnoff, and she starts feeling like his mother, and boom, no chance there.
Wow. Okay. And then after that, we call Frank to figure out what to do next.
That's my job.
Because you've written a book called Adult Male Virgins, the Handbook. This is a book for men?
It's a book for men.
But you also help women overcome
I do coach women. They face a few different challenges, but yeah.
Okay. Where can they find you?
You can come visit me at my website. Go to franktalks.com. If you want the Adult Male Virgin Handbook.
Robert, who's been in studio with us the whole hour, the former male virgin who, if there's one thing that, just a quick soundbite summary, your experience, if somebody's listening out there and they're still worried and they're lacking that confidence, whether it's they want to act on it or they don't want to act on it, what would you say to them?
Well, that already Frank's Adult Male Virgins Handbook it was my guidebook. It helped me.
Really?
Absolutely. Right away, like I had coaching sessions with him. He sent me the book and I just went through that. And I think that's a really good guide to start with. Otherwise, it's just deciding when to do it and having the guts to do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Robert, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Frank, thank you again for your help.
It's always awesome to be here.
Thank you. And your assistance in helping me navigate the waters. Thank you to all of you guys, everyone who texted, everyone who called. The show is amazing. We, on our own in studio, but it's only made better with you guys sharing your story. So thank you for that. I want to thank our technical producer, Hal Jakes and Mike Trutler, for getting this show to air. You've been listening to Passion. You can stay in touch with me through Twitter and Instagram. You can find me at Paris Mansouri. If you want to reach Dr. Lori, her email is lori@drlori.com. I will speak with you again tomorrow night. Have a great rest of the evening, everyone, and remember to fill your life with passion.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
From Loser to Seducer is the story of Frank B. Kermit. This book marks the triumph of a nice guy over most of his inner demons. This includes going from being a loser to managing 5 lovers at the same time, his first Valentine's date with 2 women at the same time, and getting back the one that got away. Want to learn how you can change your life? Buy this book at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgins Seminar and Telephone Consultations. Ladies, is your boyfriend an adult male virgin? Is he so shy and insecure that you need to take the initiative, but you really wish he would just be the man and take the lead? Does he think holding hands and sweet cheek kisses is fulfilling? Does he think the G-Spot is the name of a new club? Ladies, if his idea of a night of fun means you get to be player number 2 in his latest video game, then get him the gift that will give you both pleasure: the Adult Male Virgin Seminar and Telephone Consultations. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys become men.